Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I was cheated on by my ambitious wife. She once promised to change, but ultimately ended up sleeping with her infamous client. A devoted careerist, her love of work eventually led to her downfall, something she now deeply regrets. One evening, she came home late while I was watching the news. "You won't believe who hired me today," she said, clearly excited. "Daniel Burke," I replied, surprised. "How did you know? Were you watching the news?" I pointed at the television. There she was on the screen, though it was an older photo probably pulled from her law firm's website. Still, it was unmistakably her. She had joined Daniel Burke's legal team. It didn't surprise me. Before I'd begged her to stop working 100-hour weeks, she was among the top celebrity defense attorneys in the country. I wasn't against her career, I just wanted more than a few scattered moments with my wife. That was 2 years ago. She was defending a senator accused of murdering a staffer. I suspected he was guilty, and I doubt she believed he was innocent either. Still, she examined every detail, every piece of evidence, searching for any way to help his case. She ultimately secured a hung jury, and when the DA chose not to retry him, the country was stunned. On the third day of that trial, after she'd spent several nights sleeping in her office, I gave her divorce papers. Eventually, she asked what she could do to salvage our marriage. I told her to quit her job. Financially, we were more than stable. In fact, some of our wealth had come from her clients. I also had a thriving career as a nationally syndicated political talk show host, ranking in the top 10 and #1 in some cities. She agreed to reduce her workload and take a consulting role. She also promised we'd start a family together. While she listened to experts discuss the senator and how her efforts might have helped him avoid conviction, I held our son Max in my arms. I hated the phrase "get him off," it carried too many troubling meanings. Infidelity never crossed my mind. She valued her image too much to risk an affair and avoided anything that could tarnish her reputation. My issue wasn't her loyalty, it was her relentless dedication to work. I knew she cared about me, but her heart belonged first to her career. As a consultant, she became a regular TV guest, offering legal insight with polished charm. She was on screen daily, basking in the spotlight. "Are you upset?" she asked one day during a commercial break. "What do you think?" I replied, "Max needs to be changed." Taking him to his room, I left her hanging, uncertain how to respond. That's how I liked it. She thrived on control, and I took quiet satisfaction in throwing her off balance. She followed me, trying to reassure. "It's not like before," she said. "I'm not leading the team, just one of the members." I didn't respond. I focused on Max instead. "There you go, little man. All clean and dry." Max giggled as I playfully teased him, which brought a smile to my face. I blew a raspberry on his round tummy, and he burst into even more laughter. "It's just a tax evasion case," Amber said. "They only need my help with jury selection." "Of course," I replied, brushing past her and heading back to the family room. "You're overreacting," she insisted. "No, I don't think so," I responded, sounding a bit childish. "This could be a huge opportunity for us. Name recognition alone isn't enough." I cut her off after placing Max in his playpen. "What us, Amber? This benefits you, but I have a strong feeling it will cost us everything." "That's ridiculous," she snapped. Shaking my head, I grabbed my keys from the credenza. "Your dinner is in the oven. I'm heading to the lounge." Daniel Burke, our former state governor, had been facing intense backlash after announcing his candidacy for the upcoming presidential election. Allegations surfaced that he had failed to disclose millions in payments from a foreign corporation on his tax returns, with no clear explanation. He had also been indicted for election interference related to his prior gubernatorial campaign. The idea of his trial intrigued me. Though I had my doubts about Amber stepping back into full legal work, I found peace at a refined cigar lounge near my studio. I sipped a Davidoff Churchill while other patrons nodded in recognition. We exchanged little more than brief greetings, unless someone specifically sought more. Despite my public status, I'd become just another regular. "Barrett, help yourself to some scotch," a familiar face offered. I couldn't recall his name. "Thanks," I said, pouring myself a generous glass from his decanter. "I saw the news. Figured you'd need something strong." "You're not wrong," I replied, raising an imaginary toast before retreating to the quietest corner of the room. I took a long draw from my cigar and exhaled slowly. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if I'd overreacted. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. I had filed for divorce due to Amber's relentless schedule during high-profile cases. It wasn't until she agreed to step away from trial work that I considered reconciliation. I felt no guilt for setting that condition. After a decade at the top of her field, I believed it was time to focus on building a family while we still had the chance. But when she took on another major case without even consulting me, it felt like a betrayal. Maybe I would have considered it, had she asked. But she didn't. And that was the problem. I wanted to be part of the decision, not a bystander. My attention drifted to the TV across the lounge. Amber appeared on screen again, smiling brightly. I recognized the painting behind her. She was broadcasting from our living room. I silently hoped Max would start crying. She handled the hosts skillfully, guiding the conversation in ways that made them think she had answered their questions even when she hadn't. It was a masterclass in control. Then one of the hosts, a golfing buddy of mine, posed a question. Will your husband be refiling the divorce papers? Excuse me? Amber asked, clearly caught off guard. As part of your agreement to halt the divorce proceedings, you promised not to accept any more trial cases. Wouldn't this count as breaking that agreement? I quickly texted him. I owe you a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle for that surprise question. On screen, Amber responded, visibly flustered, which I admittedly enjoyed. My husband fully supports my career choices, she said. No, I don't, I called out, drawing laughs from those who knew me. Moments later, my phone buzzed. Barrett, this is Daria Collins from the Times. Mind if I ask you a few questions about your wife's recent actions? Hello, Daria. It's been too long, I replied. We should get lunch sometime, maybe even bring you back on the show. That sounds great, she said, but for now, how about we stick to the questions? Actually, I said, I'd prefer to make a statement. Go ahead. I was caught off guard, completely blindsided. That alone could be the headline. Would you like to add any context? She hasn't addressed our past issues yet. Still, we're together. We're happy. Thanks, Barrett. Talk soon. Daria was a rising star in journalism. I'd had her on my show a few times as a favor to her boss. It was mutually beneficial. When my phone rang again, I silenced it. I needed peace. The media frenzy was intensifying, especially since I was once one of them. The cannibals had come for their own. Later that night, as I entered the bedroom, Amber said, "It won't be like before." She looked stunning in a black satin nightgown, slid high on the thigh with lace cups that barely concealed her. It was clearly not meant for sleeping. It doesn't matter if it's the same or not, I said, trying to avoid her gaze. You know what's at stake. Things are different now we have Max. I chuckled. If you think having a son will make me stop caring about your career habits, you're mistaken. If you fall back into those patterns, you're out, sweetheart. We're crossing a line, she said. I'm not trying to argue, Amber. The time to talk was before you accepted that case. Now we're just dealing with the consequences. We'll be okay. You'll see. Now come to bed, I want to show you how much I love you. The next morning, I expected her to be furious after reading my comments in the Times. I figured I might as well enjoy having a gorgeous wife while I still could. We kissed and held each other before falling into bed, making love. Just before drifting off, she murmured, "I love you." I wondered how she'd feel when she woke up. Damn it, she shouted as I walked into the kitchen the next morning, catching me off guard. You completely blindsided me. I just told the truth. I cut in before she could finish. You didn't have to say it like that, she snapped. I shrugged. Too late now. It's already out there. It'll be the talk of the day. At least, for once, the focus would shift away from her client, who had dominated headlines for weeks. I kissed her cheek and decided to grab coffee and breakfast on the way to work, sparing us another argument. I wondered how long it would take her to slip back into those 16-hour workdays. We're not done talking about this, she yelled after me. She was right. When I arrived at the studio, the place was buzzing. A college intern was managing the phones, while a sound engineer, tech specialist, and producer moved around prepping the set. Unlike some anchors, I preferred doing my own research instead of relying solely on the team. Good grief, Barrett, the intern said. The phones won't stop ringing. I handed her a coffee. Turn off the ringer, Missy. Let everything go to voicemail and screen the important ones for me. Thanks, boss. That'll make life easier. I walked into my office and found my producer already waiting. Morning, Barrett, Rose greeted. You doing all right? Perfectly fine, Rosie. What's on the schedule for today? Hard to avoid the Burke story now, especially since you're part of it. I'm not part of it. She's my wife. That's where the connection ends. Still, you're in the spotlight. Let's bring Daria Collins on the show. You can talk it through, but keep it clear this isn't a formal interview. I saw her article this morning. Think she's got a grudge against Amber? Rose raised an eyebrow. I laughed. No, Daria's always had a soft spot for me. I caught her gossiping once. I've used that to my advantage. Barrett, don't toy with her. This city would have chewed her up by now if she weren't tough. Don't underestimate a farm girl. She's steel under that smile. Fair enough. Call her and set it up. Also, see if Dan Nan is available. Loved how he roasted my wife on his show last night. Good contacts make all the difference. You're on in 5, 4, 3, 2. Rose gestured toward me as the on-air light came on. Good afternoon, listeners. I'm Barrett Baxter, your always entertaining host. Joining me in the studio today is Daria Collins of the Times. Welcome, Daria. Hello, Barrett. I'm glad to be here, especially given the circumstances surrounding your wife. She smiled slightly. I shook my head. She wore a short skirt, legs crossed just enough to reveal a hint of her stocking top. I've always appreciated a well-dressed leg, especially in black nylons. I figured you'd bring it up, I said. Yes, my wife has accepted a position as a jury consultant for Daniel Burke's legal team. She's not practicing in the courtroom anymore. A jury consultant? Daria asked, eyebrow raised. Is that the story she gave you? I shot her a sharp look. She just smiled and dangled her sneaker from her foot playfully. According to my sources inside the Burke camp, she continued, your wife is actually leading the defense. I don't put much stock in anonymous sources, I replied with a shrug. She chuckled. Right, because you rely on people like me to keep your radio show going. Whoa, I said, my tone sharpening. I've never claimed to be a journalist. I host a show. I talk about current events, share opinions, that's it. She grinned, delivering a jab. And today's headline is your wife coming out of retirement and keeping it from you. Let's take some calls. I cut in, steering the conversation away from dangerous ground. I was already losing control of the situation. Damn those legs. Line 1, you're on, I said, deliberately avoiding eye contact with Daria, who was now crossing her legs the other way. I didn't lie to you, came my wife's voice over the speakers, defensive and sharp. I'm strictly a jury consultant. Well, if it isn't my lovely wife, Amber, I said. Hello, honey. I'll be home on time today, we're having pork roast. Daria jumped in. Hello, Mrs. Baxter. You know very well my last name is Tyson, Amber snapped. After we got married, my wife chose not to take my surname, I explained. She'd already built her professional identity under her own name and decided to keep it. Understood, Daria responded. Still, Amber continued, stop trying to twist the story. My role on the legal team is solely to assist with jury selection. Got it, Daria replied. Okay, ladies, let's leave it at that, I said. Amber, we'll talk about this more at home. Let's move on to the next caller. After the show, I was fuming. That was a complete nightmare. Daria, slipping her shoes back on, quipped, I thought it went just fine. She'd kicked off her shoes during the show, clearly trying to toy with me. You owe me for that, I muttered. She chuckled. How about I buy you dinner? Forget the pork roast. Her gaze was intense, and it rattled me. I knew she had feelings for me. At that moment, I felt like prey and she a hungry predator. I'll pass, Daria. Maybe another time. I left quickly, resisting the temptation of a dinner I'd surely regret. Back home, I started prepping the roast, coated it in oil, rubbed in my seasoning mix, and let it sit. Half an hour later, it went into the oven. I fed Max and cracked open a beer. It was hard to admit, but I was torn, caught between trusting Amber and the anonymous source Daria referenced. It was slowly driving me mad. 3 hours later, I had the table set. A chilled bottle of Chardonnay sat in an ice bucket, and the roast was cooked to perfection. Amber still wasn't home, just 30 minutes late at first. As I ate my salad, the clock ticked. She was now a full hour behind, with no call or text. I returned the roast to the oven to keep warm and poured myself a martini. I fought the urge to reach out. When she finally walked through the door an hour and a half late, I knew we were headed for an argument, and I was determined to win. By the time 2.5 hours had passed, I turned off the oven and decided to go out for dinner. 3 minutes after my steak was served, my phone buzzed. Where are you? I set the phone aside and took another bite of the perfectly cooked steak. There's something deeply satisfying about a steak seared at high heat. I refused to let her disturb that moment. 5 minutes later, another text, just a question mark. I took a mouthful of creamed spinach and savored every bit of it. The meal was a triumph. Then the phone rang. I sent the call to voicemail. I knew she was annoyed, and I felt like I'd scored a quiet win in our unspoken battle. Mature, right? By the time I finished my steak, emptied my wine glass, and scraped up the last of the spinach, I still hadn't answered her third call. It was 9:30 p.m. when I pulled into the garage, and there she was standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. I could tell she was furious, so I tried to mirror her expression with a scowl of my own. Where have you been, and why are you ignoring me? She yelled. I let out a short laugh. You already know. Did you even remember to take the roast out of the oven? I walked into the kitchen and saw the roast still sitting in the pan on the stovetop. You haven't eaten. Typical. What did you have at work? Pizza? Chinese? Chinese, she replied. Look, things won't always be like this. I don't care what you were doing, I cut in. What matters is you knew I was cooking dinner for us, and you didn't call to let me know you'd be late. I'm sorry. You know how chaotic things got. Yes, I do, I said, cutting her off again. I know exactly how it gets. That's why I filed for divorce last time, remember? You always forget that you have a husband waiting at home. And now, it's not just a husband, it's also a child. Wait, what? Max isn't here? She asked, suddenly concerned. I assumed he was with you. Well, he's not. Where is he now? You know, you're not just a bad wife. When you're working a case, you're also turning into a bad mother. She slapped me. I rubbed my cheek and turned to leave the kitchen. Barrett, wait. I'm sorry. She called after me. But I kept walking, exiting through the front door. She started calling my name again as I made my way across the lawn to the neighbor's house. She had been watching Max for me. He was sound asleep in the playpen she'd set up in her living room for her own little one, not a movement from him. When I brought him back home, Amber stood silently, arms outstretched in a silent plea to hold him. It's not fair, she said quietly. You should have told me he was next door. I could have spent time with him while he was awake. You're right, it's not fair, I replied. But neither is you failing to tell me when you'll be home. I was furious when I called into your show. You and that woman treated me with complete disrespect. And for the record, don't call it your show like that. I hate surprises. We're supposed to be on the same page, we're husband and wife. I'm telling the truth, Barrett, she said. I'm not the lead investigator on this case. Only time will tell, I said. I'm going to bed. The next afternoon, Daria stopped me in the parking garage as I headed to my car. Ever heard of James Anderson? She asked. The scene felt like something out of All the President's Men. No. Should I have? I responded. He's considered one of the best behavior analysts in the country. He's worked on nearly every high-profile jury trial in the last 3 years. And according to my source, Daniel Burke just hired him as a jury consultant. So what does my wife have to do with any of this? I asked. Seriously, Daria, are you trying to drive a wedge between us? She shrugged. I'm just asking questions, Barrett. It's part of my job. Then ask someone else, I snapped. And leave my damn marriage out of your story. I unlocked the car, climbed in, and accidentally slammed the door harder than I meant to, jolting my shoulder and letting out a yelp of pain. Really slick, she giggled, waving as I drove off. In the rearview mirror, I caught a fleeting glimpse of her shimmering nude stockings. At 6 p.m., I served Max his dinner and made myself a sandwich using the leftover roast, which turned out surprisingly good. Amber arrived late again, no text, no call. An hour later, she rushed through the garage door. I'm sorry. I got caught up and couldn't reach out, she said. When exactly did you get caught up? I asked. What do you mean? I mean, you weren't physically restrained, were you? You could have texted while sitting in a meeting or flipping through a legal brief. Barrett, I apologized. Apologies, Amber, aren't enough this time. Go spend time with your son before I put him to bed. Disheartened, I left the room and retreated to my basement man cave. Max and I expected Amber to follow him, but she didn't. I was already bracing for a confrontation, irritated by the entire situation. During halftime of the Thursday night football game, I went into the kitchen for a bottle of water, but really, I wanted to quietly check in on my wife. I found her eating ice cream, fixated on her tablet. She looked up when she saw me. We need to talk about this, Barrett, she said. There's nothing to talk about. You're back at work, but clearly slipping into your old habits. If you're not being deceptive, your focus should be on jury selection prep. She looked away and for the first time didn't deny the implied accusation. So that's it, I continued. I'm done playing second fiddle to your career. I'll update the divorce documents and file them this week. Damn it, Barrett. We are not getting divorced. I've told you this time is different. Sure. 2 days back at work and already you're late and not calling. Feels like deja vu. It's just the beginning. Trust me, things will change. I have a lot of ground to cover on this case. Ground to cover? You're supposed to be leading them on jury selection. You don't understand, Barrett. There's more to it than you think. Yes, always is. I turned and started to walk away, but she stepped in front of me, placing a hand on my chest. I swear it won't be like before. Then prove it. She pulled me into a hug, tears streaming down her cheeks. Despite my better judgment, I decided to give her another chance. It lasted 3 days. On a sunny Sunday morning, I was playing peekaboo with Max when she entered the room. I need to head to the office for a few hours. I'll be back by noon, she said. What about our usual routine church and breakfast? I asked. My voice carried an edge, but she didn't seem to catch it. We'll skip breakfast and do lunch instead. How about that Mexican place at the Arboretum? I'll see you there at noon, I replied, silently daring her to show up on time. She kissed Max and me goodbye before heading out. I turned to Max. So, kid, what do you want to do? He giggled, and we went back to our game. At noon, we were at the restaurant. I ordered a quesadilla appetizer and a Sprite for Max, which he thoroughly enjoyed. By 12:30, she still hadn't shown up. The waitress came over and asked, "Any word from your friend, or would you like to place an order?" "No, just the check, please," I replied. "My little one's getting antsy," I added, noticing Max's growing restlessness in the busy restaurant. The waitress gave me a sympathetic smile and patted my shoulder. "I get it. I've got 3 of my own. It's tough when they're restless." As she walked away, my phone rang. It was Amber. I let it go to voicemail. A moment later, she texted, I'm on my way. I'll be there in half an hour. Seriously? I muttered, glancing at Max. What am I going to do with her? Unsurprisingly, he had no answer. I typed my reply. I will not be waiting. I turned off my phone, paid the bill, and gathered Max to leave. It was time to take control. I couldn't keep letting her string me along with empty promises. I refused to be the fool I'd been before. Sure, Max changed things, but given her chaotic schedule, I was confident I could win custody. Back home, I strolled into the kitchen and dropped my keys on the table. Max wriggled free from my arms and darted off toward the family room like a wind-up toy, his toys calling. The house phone rang, but I ignored it and followed him. He reached his playpen and hoisted himself up on the mesh side, determined to climb in. Well, someone's excited for some playtime, I said. All right, pal. As I got him settled in, the phone rang again. Mommy's not going to be happy, huh? I teased. He giggled and clutched his CN toy. Max, I said, someone wise once said, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Mommy keeps making mistakes. His only reply was the CNA toy's cheerful chime. The cow says moo. Enjoy yourself, buddy, I said, tickling his side and earning a burst of laughter. For some reason, Robert Plant's voice echoed in my mind. Does anybody remember laughter? I made a mental note to put on some Led Zeppelin later. I cracked open a beer, sank into the couch beside my son, and powered on my phone. Voicemails from Amber flooded in. I deleted them all. Without listening, she'd repeat every word when she got home. Daria Collins had also sent a couple of urgent texts, but I brushed those off too. Naturally, Amber walked through the kitchen door a full 30 minutes later. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail different from how she'd left that morning. I raised a hand, signaling her to hold back the argument. Max is asleep, I said, nodding toward the playpen where he dozed peacefully. He should be in his crib, she muttered. I didn't argue. I let her take him to his room. Meanwhile, I slipped out and drove to the cigar lounge. Maybe some would say I was avoiding confrontation, but to me, it felt pointless. The marriage was over. She had made her choice work over family. Seated with my back to the door, reading an article about bridge design, I was startled by a familiar voice behind me. You're not that hard to find, Barrett. If I were trying to disappear, Daria, I replied without turning, I wouldn't be sitting here. She came around and settled into the leather chair across from me, placing herself squarely in my line of sight. She held up her chosen cigar and asked, have you tried this one? It's a solid pick, I replied. No, but it comes highly recommended. That's what Nolan said, I added. Nolan, the lounge owner, always had a suggestion ready especially for an attractive woman like Daria. That probably explained how she got into the locked private lounge. Daria borrowed my lighter, and I caught myself staring at her unusually bare legs. They still held their charm, glistening with a recent application of lotion. You're too predictable, Barrett, she teased, crossing her legs the other way. I took a slow drag from my cigar and, somewhat rudely, exhaled the smoke in her direction. What's on your mind, Daria? I'm trying to unwind here. She briefly frowned, her eyes revealing a flicker of sadness before she spoke. I have some troubling news. This will be tomorrow's front page headline, but I wanted to tell you personally before things get worse. She slid her phone across the table with a smirk. I glanced down her blouse as I looked. What should I be looking for? The video's ready. Just watch. She took a drag from her cigar, then coughed. My laughter caught in my throat when I played the video. It showed my wife and Daniel Burke kissing in an office. I threw the phone onto the table and leaned back. I'm sorry, Barrett. Truly. But there's more. Why apologize? You've got the scoop of the year. And when did you start caring about collateral damage? It's never hit this close before, I murmured, exhaling. Do you know what's the worst part? She asked. I shook my head, fighting back tears and forcing myself to look away. That jerk didn't even take a week to seduce her. He's also having affairs with the other two women on his legal team. I shrugged, as if it mattered. I was headed for divorce anyway. This just seals it. A smirk appeared on Daria's face, then disappeared. She seemed to relish the collapse of my marriage, probably thinking she'd be there to console me. Send me that video, please. I can't bear it. The story isn't. Forget your story. I yelled, slamming my hand on the table. This is about my damn marriage. I stood, silently apologizing to the few men in the room. Fine, she relented without protest. Just don't make it public. I scoffed. I walked and grabbed a bottle of Macallan 25-year-old single malt. If ever there was a time for a drink, it was now. I poured 2 generous glasses and settled back into my seat. Daria helped herself to one without asking, and I relit my cigar. Thanks, she murmured after a sip. Her attempt to hide a grimace betrayed her unfamiliarity with scotch. I honestly never thought she'd betray me like that, she said. I always thought she cared too much about her reputation to take such a risk. It's him, you know, she added. He's notorious for chasing women. We just never had solid proof. No, It's on her sleeping with him in his office within a week. She was the one seeking it out. How did you get that video? Well, installing a camera like that is a felony. So let's just say it wasn't me. Okay, let's call it an anonymous source and leave it at that. Her grin contradicted her words, but I decided not to push it. Sure, whatever. I powered on my phone to upload the video to the cloud when a text from Amber popped up. You need to come home so we can talk. I groaned and replied, no need to talk. We're done. Enjoy your time with Burke. Tomorrow's headlines should be interesting. Then I switched off the phone and turned my attention back to Daria, who was taking a long, deliberate drag from her cigar, head tilted back. There was something undeniably seductive about a woman smoking a cigar, not quite as enticing as her legs, but close. Your wife? She asked. I nodded and took a sip of my scotch. I wished her luck with handling the press tomorrow. She'll probably assume you were the one who leaked the story to me. I'm counting on you to confirm I wasn't your source. Tomorrow's going to be chaotic for you, she warned. Yeah, I know, but I'm already in deep, so I'll just stick to my routine and handle whatever comes. And you're fresh out of bubblegum, she finished, grinning. Look at you, quoting cheesy 80s movies. It's a cult classic, I said with a smirk. My cigar eventually burned out after another hour of relaxed conversation. If I thought she'd say yes, I might have ordered a few more just to prolong our time together. But the night was ending. Be careful, Barrett. I really am sorry. You're a good man. You don't deserve this. Well, it is what it is. I'll catch you later. I decided to check into a hotel. I wasn't ready to face my soon-to-be ex-wife, at least, not until absolutely necessary. And as expected, everything blew up the next day. I woke up at 6 a.m. and turned on the news. The chaos had begun. It was all over the networks. I made a terrible cup of motel coffee and jumped in the shower. Thankfully, I'd stopped by a store the night before to pick up clothes and essentials. I'd packed for a week, unsure when or if I'd go back home. The water was warm, even if the pressure was weak. But that was the least of my worries. After the shower, I turned my phone back on and ignored the flood of messages. I sent a quick text to Rose. I'm off today. Find a guest host or air a pre-recorded show. She replied, I heard the news. I'm so sorry. The phone rang. It was Amber. I ignored the call and turned up the TV volume. Then came the anchor's announcement. We have breaking news. Following the Times report about Daniel Burke's affair with his attorney, Amber Tyson, a graphic video has surfaced. Viewer discretion is advised. The footage showed them kissing and him groping her mercifully. It cut off there. The co-anchor added, this directly contradicts Governor Burke's statement denying a romantic relationship with his counsel. We've reached out to Amber Tyson for comment, but have received no response. I scrolled through Amber's messages, curious about how she was trying to spin it. What are you talking about? Daniel and I are not sleeping together. Stop being unreasonable and come home. But her tone shifted by morning. It's not true. We're not having an affair, Barrett. Please call me. I swear to you it's not true. I love you. The next message from Amber read, we only kissed. That's all. It was a mistake. It was clear she was watching the news and trying to downplay everything. I shook my head and replied, I know there's more on that video. We caught you. It's over. She kept calling, but I turned off my phone and focused on the news coverage. Analysts dissected Burke's actions and alleged indiscretions, surprisingly leaving Amber out of most discussions. That brought a small sense of relief. Less focus on her meant less attention on me. When I checked my voicemail, I found a string of messages from Amber along with several inquiries from news outlets asking for a statement. For a moment, I considered going on air to say my piece and take the heat. But then I thought better of it. Staying silent was the wiser choice. It aligned with the standard response of betrayed spouses and helped protect my image. I got to work splitting our assets, canceling joint credit cards, and collaborating with my lawyer to update legal documents. I was pursuing full custody, pointing out Amber's frequent absences from home. My attorney was confident I had a strong case, especially with solid evidence of her affair. With that, we might avoid counseling requirements or strict scheduling guidelines usually enforced in contested divorces. I wasn't exactly happy, but I was relieved. The illusion of a functioning marriage had finally collapsed. Amber had clearly prioritized her career over me, and whatever love she had left wasn't enough to stop her from cheating. Later, I checked the home security feed on my phone. She was sitting on the couch, crying quietly while watching over Max, who was fast asleep. I couldn't tell if her tears were for our shattered marriage or the professional mess she'd created. I thought briefly about revenge, public embarrassment, retaliation, waiting for his wife to hit back, but that wasn't who I was. I wasn't about to stoop to their level just to patch up my ego. Ultimately, it felt ridiculous. Burke was surrounded by security. Trying anything would only get me tackled, or worse. I let it go. Karma could handle them. Maybe they'd end up together. That alone would be punishment enough. The following day mirrored the one before, except I had to go back on air. Rose, ever composed, kept things running smoothly. The atmosphere at the station was calm, aside from the 24 reporters camped outside my building. Thankfully, I slipped in through the secured parking entrance without incident. Rose met me with news. Your friends at the time said they'll remove your name from the articles if you bring Daria back on the show. I threw my hands up. Are you serious? What's the point? Having her on could make things worse. I can't bring her in and not talk about what happened. It's the biggest story of the year. It's your show, she replied, rolling her eyes. You can choose what to cover until the sponsors start complaining and call you spineless. She had a point. If the sponsors got upset, I'd hear about it sometimes directly and sometimes through the syndication company. That was just part of life in radio. That's fine. Daria is welcome on the show, as long as she keeps it civil, I said. My memory's sharp, Barrett, she replied. If she gets the chance, she'll be perfectly charming to you. She laughed and walked off. Daria's appearance turned out to be more controversial than I expected. I couldn't control the direction of the conversation, and her sharp, probing style kept pulling me into territory I had wanted to avoid. Before I realized it, I had answered every question I swore I wouldn't. An hour later, I slipped on my headphones and saw Daria doing the same, her smile unwavering. The only noticeable difference was the way she crossed her legs, making her skirt ride up slightly. I wasn't wearing headphones myself, but I did notice the legal pad on the desk in front of her. Are those your prepared questions? I asked. She let out a charming laugh. Of course not. I'd never dream of coming onto your show with a pre-written list. Rose began her countdown to the start of the show. Daria added, besides, I know more than you now. My interest in you is strictly professional. 3, 2, 1. The theme music played, and I took a deep breath. Good afternoon, listeners, I greeted. This is Barrett Baxter, your entertaining host. I'm here in the studio with Daria Collins from The Times. How are you today, Daria? We're doing just fine. Thanks for having me, Barrett. The pleasure is all mine. So as usual, it seems Congress is in a bit of chaos. Can you shed some light on our lawmakers' latest efforts or failures to pass a budget? Daria replied, the situation remains the same. Defense advocates are protecting their slice of the pie, conservatives want major cuts, and progressives are pushing for increased funding. Moderates are simply trying to get money for their pet projects. There's no real consensus, sort of like LA traffic during rush hour. As the old joke goes, I said, the opposite of pro is con, so Congress must be the opposite of progress. Daria snorted unexpectedly and laughed. Oh no, I actually snorted. Next, I'll have you shooting milk out of your nose, I joked. She shook her head, grinning. That was terrible. Let's take a caller. Doug from Springfield, you're on the air. Hi Barrett, I really enjoy your podcast. Sorry about everything going on with your wife. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate that. So, Barrett, what can we do to fix the dysfunction in Washington? Something has to change. Start with term limits and mandatory asset audits for lawmakers before and after their time in office. Maybe we'd see actual progress if personal profit wasn't on the table. Daria asked, do you really think that's going to happen? Nope, I replied. No politician from either party will support it. Even the ones who say they do know it'll never see a vote. She nodded. People like Daniel Burke think they're above it all. They act like they're untouchable. I winced at his name, but stayed quiet. They chase power and money, she continued. And they thrive on being adored by people who echo their views and heap praise on them. They preach from the moral high ground, right before diving into scandal. It's disgusting. Tell us how you really feel, I said with a laugh. Sorry if I hit a nerve, she added more gently. It is what it is, I replied. My wife is being unfaithful. What more can I do except lose money to her and the lawyers? I said. A small smile flickered across Daria's face before quickly vanishing. Anyway, today's topic is internet sex. We have Annie from Long Island on the line. Annie, what's on your mind? Oh, Barrett, I just love it when Miss Collins is on your show, Annie said warmly. You two have such great chemistry. I chuckled. I'm a man of many talents, Annie. Like a dash of salt, I add flavor to everything. Daria rolled her eyes, though a smile crept across her face this time. Do you have a question, Annie? Yes, it's a simple one, but it's for Miss Collins. Do you want to be a mother? Daria looked surprised and threw her hands up. Annie, that's quite a question. Politics and my wife are getting boring, I said, jumping in. So, Daria, what's your answer? And for the record, Annie, her face is definitely turning red. I absolutely love children, Daria said, sidestepping the question with the skill of a seasoned reporter. Annie gave a cheerful chirp. Well, you better. Barrett's got that adorable little boy to think about. Okay, I cut in, wrapping up the call. Time to take care of a few bills. We'll be right back. Oh my God, Daria muttered once we were off air. This is going to be an interesting day. I groaned. Rose flashed us 2 enthusiastic thumbs up, clearly thrilled with the segment. Maybe it was good radio, I just didn't feel great about it. 3 hours later, I wrapped up the show. We'll see you all tomorrow. Stay the same, even when the on-air sign is off. I set my headphones down on the desk. Daria placed hers carefully on the opposite hook. Well, that was unexpected, she said. I didn't think I'd be interrogated by elderly women today. Those ladies love me, I said. She grinned. I'm a hit with the septuagenarian book club crowd. Your core demographic, I'm sure. They read newspapers too, you know. You should check your comments and letters more closely. Do I want to be a mom? What kind of question is that? I laughed, tucking my notes into my briefcase. A fair one, and I noticed you didn't really answer it. I gave her a teasing look. She frowned. I can't imagine myself as a mother. I do love kids, it's just, with this job, I don't see where I'd find the time. Sadness swept over her face. She murmured, Jesus, I'm sorry, I must be getting sick. Don't worry, I said quickly. Honestly, kids aren't as scary as they seem. I'm about to pick mine up from daycare and play trucks. How do you stay so composed, Barrett? Your marriage is falling apart, and you act like it's just another Tuesday. What would you have me do? I replied. I can't curl up in a ball and cry. I've got a kid and a job. I have to keep it all together. If I fall apart, everything else will too. So I fake it. I push forward. Daria looked at me, her voice soft. I guess I expected more emotion. I gave a quiet laugh. Emotions are for people who can afford to fall apart. I didn't truly believe it, and she knew it. She reached out, gently touched my cheek, and her smile turned to a frown. I'm sorry. I've got to pick up my son, I said. Thanks again for coming on. Anytime. And Barrett, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. I mean it. Anything. She smiled, and I walked away. Life moved on. A month later, I was in my lawyer's office, waiting for Amber's response. Barrett, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I cut her off. Amber, I don't want to hear that. If you believe our divorce is solely because you slept with that guy after barely knowing him, you're wrong. Please, stay calm, she said gently. But my voice sharpened. My lawyer stepped in, sensing my tone. It wasn't just the affair, I continued. Your relationship with him was already a deal breaker. But more than that, you fell right back into the same patterns that led me to file for divorce in the first place. You were dishonest, manipulative, and once again, you put your career ahead of our marriage and our child. That's not something I can overlook. You knew that. That job was just supposed to be jury consulting. I've heard the explanation, Amber. But it wasn't just that, was it? No, I didn't think so. You got swept up again. Honestly, the way you jumped into that engagement, it's like an addiction. I have no doubt this wasn't the first time you cheated. I slid the papers across the table. Just sign them. I'm being more than fair. I'm asking for primary custody. She blinked back tears. I gave a short laugh, and my attorney added, Miss Tyson, this won't work. There's no way my client will agree to give up primary custody, especially with your demanding work schedule. We're confident a judge will agree that staying with Barrett is best for Maxwell's well-being. I leaned in. Seriously, Amber? My investigator says you've been clocking 14-hour shifts all week and haven't even asked to see Max since you moved out. Who are you trying to fool? I love him, she whispered. He's part of me. Maybe. But from where I'm standing, it looks like you love your job more. I softened a bit. You can see him anytime. I won't make that difficult. She looked at me, eyes watery. Barrett, I do love you. I always have. Could have fooled me, sweetheart. I walked out, and later found out she signed the paperwork. Just like that, the marriage was over. 6 months passed. Max was spending the weekend with Amber, so I went to the cigar lounge. Hey, Nolan, I greeted as I stepped up to the counter. Hey, Barrett, your box of Monteristo No. 2s came in. I put it in your locker. Thanks. Is it busy today? Just the usuals and a new female member. She's only been in a couple times. Cool. Catch you later. I entered my code and stepped into the VIP lounge. The air was rich with the scent of cedar and lingering cigar smoke. It was instantly calming. I scanned the room, recognizing the usual crowd. No sign of the new female member. I went to my locker to grab a cigar. Hi, Barrett. It's been a while. I turned and smiled. Daria, long time no see. I'm finally ready to try a Cuban, she said, smiling back. I handed her one as I closed my locker. Here you go. Thanks, she said. I've actually been keeping an eye on you. Not doing a great job. Then, I chuckled. I'm not exactly hard to find, and you have my number. She gave me a playful scowl as she clipped the end of her cigar. I've just been nervous about reaching out. She lit up carefully with an elegant lighter from her purse. I smiled as I exhaled a smooth stream of smoke toward the glowing tip of my cigar. What's got you all worked up? I asked, and she admitted, I'd like to invite you to dinner. Come on now, I laughed. The same woman who used to flirt shamelessly short skirts, crossed legs, heels dangling, was now nervous about asking me to dinner? That was hard to believe. She shook her head. This is actually really nerve-wracking. But thank you. I nodded, genuinely pleased. I haven't dated much, she went on. I was busy. Teasing you is easy. I've never been shy about using my looks to get what I want from men, and occasionally from women. I raised a brow, surprised. Didn't know you were into women. Cut it out, perf. I'm not. I just know how to read people. Got it, I said. Look, I'm putting myself out there. Don't make me regret it. That's okay, I said, as she exhaled a soft stream of smoke. What's that mean? She asked. It means yes. I'll go to dinner with you. Really? She blinked, surprised. Seriously, what? Do you think you're unattractive, or something? I teased. No, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't dated much. That's okay. Let's finish these and head to that little Italian place across the street. Later, after dinner, we relaxed on my couch with a glass of wine. I turned to her. So, do you have time to date me now, or am I just a passing fling? She chuckled. Didn't you hear? I'm not with the times anymore. Must have missed that, I replied. I'm on TV now. You know the show, me and a few other women on a couch with a couple of guys. Oh, I like that show. It's like candy for leg lovers, I joked. She laughed. I guess so, though I wore pantsuits twice last week. In that case, I might have changed the channel. We both laughed, and she grinned. So, you're a fan of my legs, huh? Don't act innocent, you know I am. What about my feet? She teased, placing them in my lap. You're in jeans and socks. Not exactly your best look, I smirked, setting my glass down. Later, in my bedroom, she excused herself to the bathroom. I took the chance to check my drawer for protection, then got ready. When I lay back down, the room was softly lit by a single lamp. The anticipation was real. I was eager to see this beautiful journalist return. What followed was a moment we'd never forget. It was special. Afterward, as we lay in bed, I tried to gently suggest I wanted more than a fling, but she didn't seem to catch on at first. So I said it plainly. Would you want this to be a regular thing? I'm currently taking applications for a girlfriend, and so far, you're the only one in the running. She smiled. I'd love that. I've got more time now, and I'm ready to think about something long-term. I'm even ready to be a mom. Perfect, I said. But let's start with you becoming a stepmom. She grinned and gave me a playful slap on the chest. I'm not cheating, she whispered. Me neither, I replied, kissing her forehead. With her, it felt like I might have found someone who valued family more than her career. Time would tell, but isn't that the joy of it? Life would be boring if we always knew what lay ahead. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.